Secretary Scott Bessent said the U.S. will make several trade announcements in the next 48 hours. He also said he would meet with his Chinese counterpart in the next couple of weeks. He made these comments in an interview with CNBC this morning. Take a listen.
We are going to have several announcements in the next 48 hours. And, Joe, I think what President Trump is concerned about is the quality of the deals, not the quantity. We've had a lot of people change their tune in terms of negotiations. So my mailbox was full last night with a lot of new offers, a lot of new proposals. So it's going to be a busy couple of days.
Trump said the U.S. would start delivering tariff letters at 12 p.m. Eastern today. According to Bessent, the letters would not necessarily provide an ultimatum. He said, quote, "It's just thank you for wanting to trade with the United States of America." He added, "We welcome you as a trading partner, and here's the rate unless you want to come back and try to negotiate." Bessent declined to comment on whether negotiations on new ownership of TikTok would be linked to trade talks. Trump said the TikTok ownership discussion would start this week. Bessent said he would meet with his Chinese counterpart in the next couple of weeks. He said the U.S. and China will discuss whether they are able to move beyond trade into other areas. President Donald Trump has hit Japan and South Korea with a 25% tariff. Duties on both nations' exports to the U.S. will take effect August 1st. Trump pointed to what he described as persistent trade imbalances between the allies. The president posted letters to the leaders of both countries on Truth Social to announce the tariffs. The letters warned both countries not to retaliate by increasing their own import taxes. Trump wrote, quote, "If for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added onto the 25% that we charge." The president added that he hoped Japan and South Korea could reach a trade agreement with the U.S. Yesterday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that tariff letters to about 100 countries are set to go out over the next 3 days. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and other trade updates.
When I'm out talking to business,
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the next couple of days will be very busy.
President Trump's going to be sending letters to some of our trading partners saying that if you don't move things along, then on August 1st, you will boomerang back to your April 2nd tariff level.
Bessent predicts a lot of deals going down quickly.
And, Dana, we're going to send out probably 100 letters to small countries where we don't have very much trade, and most of those are already at the baseline 10%.
The Treasury Secretary pushed back on concerns about tariffs fueling inflation.
The empirical data shows that we have seen no inflation thus far, and we'll see over the coming months.
Meanwhile, President Trump said Sunday some trade deals had been made with trading partners and letters would go out to other countries notifying them of higher tariff rates.
Sending letters out on Monday having to do with the trade deals.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told reporters the higher tariffs would take effect on August 1st.
Tariffs go into effect August 1st, but the president is setting the rates and the deals right now.
Lutnick discussed the possibility of trade deals being signed this week.
Well, the president is right in the midst of discussing all sorts of deals with all sorts of countries, and the gentleman to my right's going to decide, and I'm going to be with him when he makes that decision.
I think we'll have most countries done by July 9th, yeah. Either a letter or a deal.
Howard.
Trump in April announced a 10% base tariff rate on most countries and higher additional rates ranging up to 50%. The president later delayed the effective date for all but 10% until July 9th. Over to China, the communist nation unveiled new restrictions on Sunday that further limit European medical device companies' access to its market. Government contracts valued at over $6 million will exclude EU-based companies. The country's ministry also placed restrictions on non-EU suppliers, requiring them to keep the medical equipment imported from the EU to 50% or less of the total contract value. The move was retaliation for restrictions introduced by the EU in June. The June rules bar Chinese companies and products from participating in medical device tenders. The EU says its move against China was a response to the communist nation's long-standing exclusion of EU-made medical devices from Chinese government contracts. President Trump on Sunday said that countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. The president wrote on Truth Social, "There will be no exceptions to this policy."
The original BRICS group consisted of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. It now also includes South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
More on trade. The European Union said today it wants to reach a deal with the U.S. and avoid tariffs.
We want to achieve win-win outcomes, not lose-lose outcomes. Progress has been made towards an agreement in principle. We consulted with our member states on Friday. Our president talked to the American president yesterday, and we are working hard, all parts of the machine, towards getting something over the line by the 9th of July.
EU spokesperson Olaf Gill says Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and President Trump had a good exchange yesterday. It was not immediately clear whether there had been a meaningful breakthrough to prevent sweeping tariff hikes on the EU. Without an agreement, U.S. tariffs on most EU imports would rise from their current 10% to 20%, which Trump laid out on April 2nd. France's finance minister Eric Lombard spoke out against Chinese imports harming Europe's industrial economy. He said Europe needs to strengthen tariff barriers. Lombard mentioned Europe's actions to protect domestic steel and cars, but he says wider protections are needed. Speaking at an economic conference in France, he said all industrial sectors need tariff protection. He said that otherwise, the Chinese policy of having more than 50% global market share in each sector will kill European industry. The Chinese regime imposed new duties on European brandy on Friday. The European Union imposed up to 45% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles last year. Coming up, President Donald Trump has threatened new tariffs on any nation supporting anti-American policies of the BRICS group. What is the level of influence BRIC has on the global